Good evening and welcome to the Brockton School Committee meeting. Today's Tuesday, October 25th, and the time is 7:03 p.m. Please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. Thank you. Welcome to an open meeting of the school committee. So I'm just going to read this because the meeting is being recorded. So in addition to attending, the public can also view this meeting via Comcast channel 98 and 1071 HD and online at www.youtube.com/BrocktonChannels. I'd like to call the meeting to order. We're going to establish a quorum. Mrs. Sullivan? Mr. Homer?
Here.
Mr. Rodriguez?
Here.
Mr. Sullivan? And the vice chair is present. The mayor is unable to attend this evening. He has a mayor's conference out of the area, and our other members are also at work conferences. So I just wanted to make that noted. Thank you. As far as I know, we do not have any hearing of visitors for the evening, so we're going to go on to our consent agenda. Do any of the members have any items that they would like removed from the consent agenda? We have items A through G. Mrs. Sullivan.
I'll remove letter D.
Okay. Any other items to be removed? So can I get a motion to approve items A, B, C, E, F, and G of the consent agenda?
Motion to approve items A, B, C, E, F, and G from the consent agenda.
Can I get a second on that?
Second.
A motion's been made by Mr. Homer. It's been properly seconded by Mr. Rodriguez. I'm going to actually go over the items that were approved, and then Mrs. Sullivan can go over item D. So item A of the consent agenda was approval of minutes of October 11th, 2022, regular school committee meeting. Item B is approval of minutes October 18th, October 18th, 2022, Diversity, Race, Equity, and Inclusion Subcommittee meeting. Item C is approval of out-of-state field trip, Empower Yourself, to Johns Hopkins University in Baltimore, Maryland. Item E is acceptance of notification of personnel appointments, certified personnel. Item F is acceptance of notification of personnel appointments, non-certified. And item G is acceptance of notification, personnel actions, leaves of absence, resignations, and retirements. So those have already been approved. Mrs. Sullivan, item D, please.
I just wanted to say that item D is requests for authorization to submit proposal and expenditure of funds for FC 345359 Brockton Adult Learning Center grant for $1,350,068. The second one is supporting students' social emotional learning, behavioral and mental health and wellness for $150,000. The third one is the Downey Playground Special Earmark Grant, $100,000. And the fourth one is the Eastern Bank Foundation's Community Grant for $10,000. And I just wanted to say that grants are really great to get for our school department, and they help us out a lot. And I just wanted to put a special shout out to Terry McIntosh for working on this Downey Playground, and Michelle Dubois. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Any members have any questions on that, or are we ready to vote on approving that? Okay. Do we have a motion to approve item D of the consent agenda?
Motion to approve item D, request for authorization to submit proposal and expenditure of funds.
Second.
So motion's been made and properly seconded. Motion's been made by Judy Sullivan and seconded by Tim Sullivan. Okay, so
In favor?
yeah, I'm going to do that right now.
Okay.
So all in favor, show of hands. That's unanimous. All members voted yes. Next item is report of superintendent of schools. Superintendent Thomas.
Thank you, Vice Chair Azek. We're going to start with some recognitions. First, we're going to have Mackenzie Quinn. Is she with us tonight? Mackenzie, come down. You can sit right there in that empty chair. Welcome. Thanks for coming. So, Mackenzie Quinn is the Brockton High School senior who became the first female varsity football player to score a touchdown for the Brockton Bucks. That happened on October 7th, 2022. She maintains a 5.0 grade point average while playing with multiple sports and being a great role model for her peers. Congratulations, Mackenzie, on this historical occasion, and we've all seen her on TV plenty of times. She received a special football personally autographed with a note from Bob Kraft. And I think, did you get a letter from Nick Saban as well? All right, because I thought I heard he was sending a letter. Well, we'll have to talk to him about that. So, but we want to welcome you, congratulate you, and you made the whole city proud. So congratulations, and feel free to say anything.
Just hit the green button.
You got to hit that button right in front of. There you go.
Get used to this, Mackenzie.
Yeah.
There's not really much more I can say on the topic, but I really just want to thank the team as well. It really wasn't just me, but I mean, obviously, like, I scored the touchdown, but it's always with the help of everyone else. I couldn't have gotten here as far as I have without their support, so I just want to thank them too.
Thank you. Actually, congratulations. We are very proud of you. Bucks are strong. City of champions. We're always proud to see our students come before us, and it was all over social media. It was amazing. Everyone was sharing it. Mr. Rodriguez, everyone, in the sports and athletics. To say we're proud, I mean,
Amazing.
it's amazing. So we're excited to see where your future takes you. You're always a boxer. But if any of the other members have anything to say.
Congratulations. Oh,
Mr. Rodriguez. Oh, Mr. Sullivan.
Just one question, Mackenzie. Are you looking at the NFL?
I mean, I haven't gotten my call yet, but I open for conversation.
Yeah, maybe you can play quarterback for the Patriots. They can't seem to make up their mind.
Mr. Rodriguez.
Just want to say congratulations. You wrote history. It's always going to be embedded. Kids, they're in the first grade now. They're always going to talk about that. One question: when that play was called, and you was getting the rock, how would you feel? What was that energy level?
The energy of the entire game from that point was everyone was very hyped up. It was getting close to the end of the game, and the play had been kind of brought up or like referenced the day before in practice, and the coaches said, they called my name, and I was obviously like geeking out. Friday Night Lights are the feeling. The atmosphere it's intense in itself, but the boys were just really like, you got this. That's the first game I've ever been in for, obviously Friday Night Lights, but the boys were they were great. They were like, Kenzie, you're just gonna stand. You got this. And I was like, I believed them and put my trust in them, and they got me through. Cool.
Awesome.
I'm not even hitting this. Congratulations, and look forward to the next home game. Actually, Turkey Day. That's going to be a very, very big crowd stadium, and I want to see a touchdown.
I'll keep that in mind.
What are your future goals? Do you have any plans as far as after senior year?
After senior year, I am looking at college. I'm looking at what I can do in college, obviously academically. I'm trying to declare my major, before I get there, so I can save my time. But I'm definitely looking at what I can do for sports there too. you know, I don't want to let that go. So I'm looking at what colleges can offer me what, and taking it from there.
That's awesome. We're very proud of you, and you're always welcome to come back and keep us posted as to what's going on, and hopefully we'll keep seeing you on that big screen, making Brockton proud. Any other members? I believe we...
Oh, yeah.
We can get all the school committee members to come up and take a photo with Mackenzie and...
Yeah. Yeah.
Just you right here.
Did you go to the bluff?
I did.
A gift from Principal Nezrela. Just give you this. I'm gonna take a picture. Who's got the picture? Ms. Burns?
Let's see Ms. Burns.
Taking a picture? That's the phone.
I'm up with the times now. Well, it is running out. All right. Can I read
Jared?
Yeah.
Awesome. Very good.
Thank you.
Congratulations.
Congratulations.
Next, I want to bring up our friend, Mr. Stephen Forts. Come on down. Mr. Forts teaches physical education at the Plouffe, and he's here tonight, and he's actually going to introduce the student that's here as well, who assisted him. So we want to congratulate Stephen for his actions in life-saving response at the Plouffe Middle School in the cafeteria during the 8th grade lunch. He was informed by a student that one of her classmates was choking. Mr. Forts immediately went to the student, quickly responded by providing the Heimlich maneuver. Principal Nezarella spoke with the student's mother, and she reported at the time the student was doing well. So, Mr. Forts, thank you for your swift action and your care and dedication for our students, and we really appreciate it.
Thank you.
Mr. Forts is also my DJ at the convocation every year.
Not Sunny Joe White. He likes to call me that.
So, Mr. Forts, will you introduce the student that assisted you and tell us how that all happened?
Well, her last name's Forts also. No relation.
All
but,
right.
Kiara Forts.
Kiara, come on down. So, can you tell us about that day and don't be nervous.
So I was eating my tater tots, and then
Delicious.
I see
Delicious.
it was tater tots and burgers, and I see my friend who was choking, but I thought he was sick, so I was like backing up, and I was like, "You good?" And he was like still coughing, and then he laid down on my other friend, and then my other friend, she was like, "Call Mr. Forts," and then I was like, "Okay," and then I was walking, and then I started running because his face started turning red, and then I was like, he's like choking over there. And then he started running really weird, but we're not going to say that. So that's what happened.
Well, we want to congratulate you for your quick action and for getting Mr. Forts and assisting your classmate. And you're a very brave young lady, so thank you for everything you did.
Thanks.
Thank you. So Kiara, correct? So you were thinking really quickly, and that's what was so important. So you made a difference in your friend's situation. So your quick thinking is amazing, and we just want to thank you. And we have a little something for you. Yes. So, Mr. Forts, we have no music. We don't have any music.
It's in my head.
So again, we're very proud of your quick thinking and making sure your friend was safe.
Thanks.
Thank you. Miss Nazrella's not coming down?
I think she should.
I think Miss Nazrella really should come down and present the flowers with us. Principal Nazrella, thank you. Congratulations. Thank you. Thank you both.
Oh, we got a photo up.
Congratulations. Thank you. Thank you. So thank you. That was great. We're always thrilled when we can recognize students. So next, we want to call up the donations at the unknown. They're not here tonight? All right, so we'll have to invite them back. So we have Abby with us tonight. Abby's our student representative, and she's going to give us an update on how things are going here at Brockton High School. Oh, we get PowerPoint. I love it.
Good evening, everyone. Thank you for having me back again. I'd like to start off with a little Class of 2022 alumni shout out. So recently we had some Boxer alums reconnect with administrations. So I'd like to show you some of what our amazing past students have been doing post Brockton High. So we have Blaine Bertacci at Bridgewater State, Mamadou Chalme at UMass Lowell, Andrew Gomes at Suffolk University, Daniel Rateau at Northeastern University, and of course we have Ellen at Pepperdine, who I'd like to note sent us a picture wearing the sweatshirt you guys gave her. Then moving to school events. We had our first in-person senior executive election in quite a while. And there's no glass ceiling at Brockton High, where our school elected 4 female class officers. Our new officers now include Milani DePina, which is president, Nina Miles for vice president, Andrea Morano for secretary, and Claudia Pierre for treasurer. Our school is really turning away from the status quo this year with examples like this election, or academics, and in athletics like Mackenzie Quinn. The seniors took their field picture last Friday, the first of our many senior events. Our marching band and football team had their last pep rally of the season, and we had a flag dedication ceremony presented by Lasso, because years ago the Azure Calf flooded and all the flags had to be taken down. So Brockton High wanted to do a special ceremony where the flags were put up, and we had a diverse group of students and staff celebrate and display flags while students performed. Then for academic, we have the Empower Yourself program had an event over the weekend where on the fields of Brockton High, students launched rockets through ongoing engineering program. Students compete with other schools in these engineering competitions, learning and taking part of many activities like this. Our college fair series continues through the month of October. Our most recent was on October 5th, and another one will happen tomorrow. Our juniors took their PSAT, starting their preparations for college, and we had student representatives from various programs at Brockton High sent to the middle schools to present and inform the 8th graders about programs that they could be interested in when they go to Brockton High School. Then to athletics, our halftime show had a future boxer day where middle schoolers came and took part of the halftime show to get a taste of what they'll be taking part in the next coming years. Our senior nights for fall sports have begun, starting with volleyball, cross country, soccer, and recently celebrating our football, marching band, color guard, and halftime dancers. I'd also like to mention that Family ID has opened for winter sports. And this week I wanted to start a student shout-out thing, so it kind of was perfect that Mackenzie Quinn was honored, because I wanted to show you all pictures of Mackenzie's football when she got honored. So there it is, and that was the end. Thank you.
Thank you, Abby. Appreciate it. So next, we have, this is our presentation of number 2 on our MCAS results. And this is going to focus on our student-specific groups. So we have Deputy Superintendent Sharon Wolder, Dr. Karen Spalding, Dr. Michelle Connors, Dr. Jamie Labouie, and Mr. Sean Precious are going to all present the results from our student-specific groups. So you can head to the podium, and I think, Sean, you're leading us off? I sure am. All right.
I have to follow Abby for the second meeting in a row. Good evening, everyone. So just a little bit of framing for this evening. So this is a follow-up on our presentation from 2 weeks ago on October 11th. We're going to dive deep into multiple student group presentations, and you'll see we have the multiple folks from our cabinet here representing areas germane to their role. So just in terms of process, I'm trying to set up my colleagues because there will be a similar flow for all of them. So we'll take a look at some data. They're going to talk us through some of their takeaways and reflections on that. And we'll conclude each section with, in alignment with what we talked about last time in terms of next steps on our path to proficiency, 90% proficiency. We're going to talk a little bit about our immediate next steps in this next academic year. This clicker is dramatically improved from last time. This is great. So just a little bit of context before we dive into a bunch of different data sets. Wanted to ground us in a word that I think about a lot when I think about the work that we do on behalf of our students and their families, and that is hope. And I sort of came up with a little bit of an acronym here. Each of these statements connect back to what we're going to talk about tonight. So first, I want to talk about high expectations and knowing that we are not yet where we want to be in terms of student performance, but that we can get there, which I think connects part and parcel with optimism, the belief in our students and their families, and the belief in our educators across the system. We are on I believe, in my short time here, a fairly rapid improvement cycle. And I'm really proud of the strategic plan that was developed and the corresponding action plan that we're building to guide implementation. So high expectations and optimism are the first sort of mindsets that I want to bring to our conversation this evening. I also always like to remind folks when we are looking at numbers, when we are looking at data, that there is a student at the end of every single one of those numbers. And I come back to our focus on positive relationships and know that data does tell the story, data does not lie, but it does not tell the whole story. And so let's be mindful of that as we go. And then finally, I'm staring directly at Renee. It's fitting that I'm staring at our Assistant Superintendent for Equity, Diversity, and Inclusion when we think about this notion of equity and that equity is proficiency. And so again, on our path to 90% proficiency, ensuring that we center equity in all that we do. And so at this time, I'm going to turn it over to Dr. Karen Spalding. You're going to love the clicker. So much easier.
Okay. Hi, and thank you. I will say I'm a little under the weather, so if you see me take a cough drop or water, that's what's happening. So just as a recap, I won't go over this data again. These charts should look familiar. Sean Precious presented them a couple of weeks ago, but we wanted to put them in there just as a reminder. And before I dig into sharing some of the grades 3, 4, and 5 MCAS data, just wanted to provide an example of some of the varied ways in which we use data. And you'll see a similar example from Dr. Connors in a few moments. So as you know, one of the focus areas for the Brockton Public Schools last year and into this year was active reading and writing. And so we wanted to dig in a little bit to see if some focused attention and focused efforts in those areas made a difference. And so what you see up here, so this is grade 5 data. And if you look at on the left, those are standard areas or standards domains for English language arts, which is what students are assessed on the MCAS. And so what we did is we looked at the 2022 data and we highlighted those areas in English language arts that are most explicitly linked to writing. And so you see essay, conventions of standard English, writing, and production and distribution of writing. And so we looked at the difference in the points earned by Brockton Public Schools students and the points earned for those areas at the on average at the state level. And what you see in that 2022 column pretty clearly is those are areas where that gap between Brockton Public Schools student performance and performance at the state level is the smallest. But that wasn't good enough to convince us that maybe writing made a difference, because maybe the Brockton Public Schools has always been stronger in writing. And so we looked back to 2019 and actually looked back as far as 2018 and 2017 to say, is this a pattern that you see all the time, or is something different about 2022? Something was different about 2022, because the only place that you see that happen is in 2022, which is where there was absolutely a more intense focus on writing. There was Writing Wednesdays. Teachers were talking about writing. Teachers were looking at writing collaboratively at student work. There was professional development really focused on writing, and you see that in the data here. And when you look at the 4th grade data, you see the same pattern. When you look at the 3rd grade data, you see the same pattern. And so we just wanted to share that as one of the examples, because when we put things into place, whether it's initiatives or new strategies, we are always looking and reflecting on data to see, did it make a difference? Did it, in fact, get us the gains that we were hoping for? So this is the grades 3, 4, and 5 data. The top chart is English language arts, and it's the average for the 3 grades of the % of students who either met or exceeded expectations. And you have the 2022 data there and the 2021 data there. The sort of red-pink column is the percentage on average of students for all 3 grades that met or exceeded expectations. And then as you move from left to right, those are student-specific groups, and they give you the percentages of, again, students who met or exceeded expectations. And the next slide has a couple of the takeaways, so I'll hold off on the interpretation for a moment. And then the second chart that you see there is all of what I just described, but it's for performance on the math MCAS for both 2021 and 2022. And so a couple of the takeaways from that data on the previous slide is when we look at English language arts data, there was really little or no change in the percentage of students meeting or exceeding expectations in English language arts as we looked at 21 and 22 data. I put in a note there, and you'll see that note appear again with the secondary data. But as a note, you may have heard on the news, at the state level, English language arts scores actually declined. And that was especially true in guess which area? Writing. And that was not the case for us. The percentage of Brockton Public School students meeting and exceeding expectations on the math MCAS increased, and that was true for all students. It was also true for all of those student-specific groups. And then finally, with the exception of the multi-race non-Hispanic student group, there is an achievement gap for all other student groups, and the greatest gap that we see is the gap for students with disabilities as compared to all students. So when we think about that data and what we see in that data, and we think about our next steps and monitoring efforts, 2 of the most robust ways to address achievement gaps: first, high-quality instructional materials; second, really strong data systems with structures and supports that focus on early intervention and early screening so we can identify the needs of students, give them what they need, and avoid that gap getting wider as they move their way through school. And so, as you know, because I was presenting on it a couple weeks ago, we have the new Wonders curriculum coming in, which is considered a high-quality instructional material. Last year, we introduced illustrative math, also a high-quality instructional material. And then in addition to that, we have some additional supplemental, what we call blended learning programs. And so what that means is students spend a little bit of time on the computer, using a program that really adapts to where they are in terms of their level, so it's very individualized. But then it gives the teacher information about how the teacher can follow up with specific groups in the classroom and specific targeted ways and targeting skills. In addition to that, building a more robust system for universal screening. That's that idea of really identifying very early on how students are doing, and then doing follow-up, more diagnostic, getting more diagnostic information to know exactly, in the case of reading, for example, exactly which skills they need development and support in, and giving them what they need so that that gap doesn't widen, so that we have students who are reading on grade level by third grade. And then finally, in general, in thinking of our data systems, building and implementing a more robust student learning and English language development progress monitoring system. In other words, not waiting for the next access test to check in to see how students' English language is developing, but having ways in which we can look at data on an ongoing basis so we can really respond to the needs of students. So in terms of ongoing monitoring, we will continue with the STAR reading and math assessment 3 times a year. In addition to that, principals at the building level, teachers at their classroom level, I with my coordinators at the district level and school level are regularly reviewing the data that we get from Lexia Core 5, which is literacy reading data. Lexia English provides that data I was talking about in terms of between the access test to let us know how students are progressing in developing English language. The illustrative math unit assessments and the ST math assessment data as well. ST Math, by the way, is a visualization online computer program. Students do, again, very little minutes. But what it does is it provides really visual displays of math and support students in developing their problem-solving skills and visualizing math. So seeing what fractions look like, if you're doing equivalent fractions, for example, seeing what they look like and building that conceptual understanding. And then finally, and this is really important, monitoring the fidelity to the curriculum via both formal and informal walkthroughs. So I presented, again, a couple of weeks ago on the plan that we have for supporting teachers. Teachers need training. They need good, solid training and professional development and ongoing training. And so we talked about that before. But then also being in classrooms and being ever present to give them that ongoing support. It's one thing to provide professional development before the curriculum implementation, but you want to do those check-ins and keep that support structure in place through implementation as well. And I will hand it over to Dr. Connors.
So at the risk of sounding like a broken record, but this is a good record to replay. So I'm going to take you back a little bit. I'm going to start with grade 8 and demonstrate, much as Dr. Spalding did, that our focus on writing mattered. It made a significant difference. This is the breakdown by standard for grade 8. The items highlighted in yellow are the ones where we made the biggest gains, but or gap closing gains, I will say, between where we were in our difference with the state in 2019 versus where we are in 2022. But you can see that we closed the gaps in almost all areas, and we certainly did not decline, and that is a focus on writing. I also show you grade 8 and our performance because we recognize that our students these 8th graders are now at Brockton High. And so we're hopeful that the work that was done in our middle schools is going to continue to support our students in their performance at Brockton High. Additionally, grade 6 and 7, if I showed the graphs, they're going to look very similar. We had the same gap narrowing gains across our ELA MCAS because of writing. Please remember that our last year's 6th graders were in 3rd grade when the pandemic hit. That's a significant milestone in their writing, their literacy development, and our 7th graders were in grade 4. So to see that they made those gains from 2019 to 2022 is directly attributed to the work of our classroom teachers. So just wanted to point that out. Okay, now the clicker won't work for me. And so a similar setup to what Dr. Spalding showed you, you'll notice all of our students in the pink column and then broken down by our various student groups. I'll go through the takeaways as well, but I do wanted to point out some really big gains in our student group for our multi-race students. You'll notice 26% of our students are meeting or exceeding expectations in that student group versus our all-student group of only 23. So they are outperforming. Same in math, 16% this year meeting or exceeding expectations for our multi-race student group versus only 15% for all students. So that's a significant data point. Some of the takeaways: slight improvement in 6 through 8. Didn't make huge gains, but we did make gains. And as Dr. Spalding said, based on the data and looking back prior to even 2019, we can pretty confidently point to writing made a difference. The work of the teachers in the classrooms on constantly working with our students on active reading skills. In order to write, you have to comprehend what you're reading. And so it gets a little more difficult as you go up in years in grades with the more difficult texts. And so the fact that we made gains while the state declined in writing is significant. Slight improvement in our math MCAS for all students and all student groups, and we don't see that across our grades. So we're proud of that. And then again, our largest achievement gaps are with our students with disabilities in our middle school grades. Monitoring and next steps: high quality instructional materials in every classroom. We are very fortunate to have adopted StudySync. Thank you for your support with that. Last year was our first year of implementation. We're working very closely with TNTP to support that, specifically our grant, our GLEAM grant with DESE, which is Growing Literacy Equity Across Massachusetts. We're also, we have an amazing team of Gleamers. They're called the Dynamites and the Firecrackers. Jody Nelson has named them. I'm not sure where they came from, but it's teachers and leaders across our ELA, ESL, and special education departments. And they work with our classroom teachers to provide evidence-based strategies for literacy instruction, which will continue to have a positive impact on student performance. This GLEAM team, with the support of DESE and TNTP, has also developed a literacy action plan that is directly connected to our proficiency commitment as well as our strategic plan. And we will continue to provide support for our math teachers through our Carnegie Learning professional learning model. Carnegie we have representatives from Carnegie in all of our schools that work consistently. So Monica Nestor is our middle school math coach, and she observes teachers using Mathia, provides feedback to them to strengthen their instruction using the high quality instructional materials, co-plans with them so they're getting used to using this resource to plan effective instruction, models lessons, and it has been very well received in our math classrooms at our middle school. So we'll continue that model. And then our monitoring, we will continue with our STAR reading and math 3 times a year. Many of our schools are actually asking if they can do it more often to monitor student progress. We're just cognizant of too much testing takes away from instruction. So we're just working to balance that. I'm very excited. We, as you know, rolled out Honors Academy this year across all of our middle schools, and we just recently used our 2022 MCAS data and our fall STAR assessment data to identify even more students who will be placed in Honors Academy. So we are well over 1,000 students across all of our middle schools. So we're very excited about that. I just asked, Candy has been working on pulling the data because it's very important that we look at the student makeup, though, of Honors Academy. So when we talk about our achievement gap, are we inclusive like we said we would? The purpose of Honors Academy was equity and access. And so who are our students in Honors Academy? So I will come before you at a later date to show you the breakdown of our students with disabilities, our multilingual learners, and our students of color and the makeup in Honors Academy to show you just how diverse the group is, and we're very pleased with that increase in access. We will continue to review Lexia Power Up. Lexia English, we're using we're piloting it at Southeast and Plouffe in our transitional bilingual education classrooms to increase their language acquisition. And so we're excited about that work. We're also layers in their use of StudySync in those classrooms, and using the data from Carnegie Math to inform instruction. Carnegie Math also has quarterly meetings with district leadership to update progress, and regular meetings with building leaders so that they're looking at the data and know how to read what is Carnegie Math data telling you and how do you use that to support your teachers. And again, as Dr. Spalding mentioned, monitor fidelity to the curriculum via formal and informal walkthroughs. And I'll talk a little more about that as it relates to science in just a couple more slides. So grade 10, I'm very happy to say that we continue to show the same growth and progress in narrowing that gap between our performance and the state's performance as a result of active reading and writing. So as you can see, we did not fall farther behind, but instead started to narrow that gap in mostly all of the categories in writing. And again, that is a tribute to the work of the classroom teachers at all of our high schools. Our data by student groups, again, our ELA and our math in grade 10. As you will see, slight increase in ELA and an unfortunate decline in math, and I'll talk a little bit more about that in our takeaways. But I also want to point out again the performance of our students in the student group, our multi-race student group, especially in ELA. 50% of students who identify as multi-race are meeting or exceeding expectations. Some takeaways, as I mentioned, little change in ELA. There was growth, but again, the state declined in their ELA performance. So the fact that we are moving in the opposite direction should be acknowledged. We did decline in math in grade 10. The state also declined. That doesn't mean we're proud of that. And by any means, we would still prefer to be moving in the opposite direction. But that has to tell you something is happening. It's not just Brockton students that are declining. And we will continue to dig deeper in that to find out what changes we need to make in our math instruction to support our students. Our two groups that did not decline in math, though, are our English language learners and our students with disabilities. We had more students in meeting or exceeding expectations in math than all students. So that's absolutely should be celebrated, and we will be looking to those teachers to find out what are you doing in your classrooms to impact that student achievement. But still, despite that growth, and we're very proud of it, there still remains a significant achievement gap in our English learners and our students with disabilities when it comes to math performance. So some next steps and monitoring efforts. As you know, we are working harder than ever with some changes to responsibilities in our leadership to include, it's not just Brockton High, we're working with all of our 9 through 12 pathways and bringing leaders together to support teachers. For the first time, grades 9 and 10 will be taking STAR Reading and STAR Math on a consistent basis to monitor progress. It's new to our students in grades 9 and 10, although they did do this in middle school, so it's not that new. But as a high school student, it is. It's also new to our leaders and our teachers, so it's very important that we're working to support their capacity to analyze that data and how to use that data to inform their instruction. We will continue to use the ARC tool, active reading, for comprehension to deepen that reading comprehension and support writing across all areas. As I mentioned earlier, to be a good writer, you have to comprehend what you're reading so you can write to multiple texts. We'll implement a new curriculum in our bilingual department, our ESL classrooms. They recently adopted 2 new curriculum models to support our ESL students in grades 9 through 12. And this is a pretty amazing piece of work that is happening, providing targeted support to students demonstrating academic and behavioral struggles through a case management approach. So we have a large number of students at Brockton High specifically, and it's not unique to Brockton High, who are in their third freshman year. So they're struggling academically and behaviorally. So under the leadership of Principal Burns, she has created a team of teachers led by Gary Giotto, our assistant principal for culture and climate, our deans, and our behavior interventionists. They're creating teams who will meet with students to target, find out what is going on, what is happening, why are you disengaging, why are we seeing these trends, bring the families in, and then monitor and check in with those students on a frequent basis to start to make those changes. So I'm pretty excited to work alongside Cindy and her team and support their work. It's definitely needed because Brockton High, as you know, is large, and it's easy for some of our students to fall behind. So this is a heavy lift for our team at Brockton High, but this work will pay off in the long run. So we're excited to see how that goes. In terms of monitoring, we're going to review plans for school and departmental professional learning opportunities to ensure teachers are supported in using this data to inform their instruction. In the past, historically, we've been just really using MCAS and access data, so this is a shift in their practice, and we're committed to supporting the teachers in that work. Calibrate classroom observations, specifically around higher order thinking. Are our content objectives aligned to standards? Are they rigorous? Are they grade level appropriate? Are we doing active reading and writing? And are we paying attention to the DESE look-fors that are directly connected to our priority standards across our curriculum areas? Consistent ongoing use of the data hub to monitor both behaviors and academic performance as a means of both early intervention and credit recovery. For example, attendance data is critical. Students aren't coming to school. It's important that we find out why, what is happening. But also students are cutting periods 5 and 6. What is happening? Why periods 5 and 6? And how do we work with them in a positive manner to say, listen, you're not going to class, you're missing this work, so you're failing. So it's a behavioral and academic concern. How can we help you recover that credit so that you're not failing? So there's some exceptional work happening across 9 through 12. And then, much like our other levels, monitor fidelity to the curriculum being through formal and informal walkthroughs. And finally, a look at our science performance. Now, I put grades 8 and 10 together here for a reason. Our grade 8 science MCAS is a grade span test. I've mentioned that to you before. It covers grades 6, 7, and 8 standards. We use Amplify Science as our middle school curriculum. We did show slight improvement in grade 8 science performance, but I also put it alongside grade 10 because the work we do in our middle school science classrooms has a direct impact on their performance when they get to high school and their science classrooms. So if we are not supporting and digging deep into that work and using our high quality instructional materials with fidelity, it's going to have a negative impact on our students when they get to high school and take their biology test. You will notice that there is no 2021 data for grade 10. There was no test. When the pandemic hit, they removed science MCAS at the high school level for competency determination. Prior to 2021, you may be asking, well, why not show that data then? It was a completely different test using completely different standards and an achievement system. So this, if you will, is kind of our baseline. The test is now aligned to the new standards, and so we will use this data and move on from there. So some of the takeaways, again, as I mentioned, slight improvement in our grade 8 students meeting and exceeding expectations. And that's on par with the state. They also can point to a small recovery for grade 8 science. I mentioned no administration of science last year for high school. And again, the greatest achievement gap in both grades 8 and 10 in our science achievement is with our English language learners and our students with disabilities. So we have work to do in narrowing that gap across all of our content areas, across all grades 6 through 12. Oh, monitoring next. Is that still me? Did I? Okay, I thought I just went through all that. Sorry. All right, so high-quality instructional materials in every classroom. I mentioned Amplify Science, Savvis Easy Bridge. So we have brand-new curriculum materials for all of our science classes offered at Brockton High School. We will really dig into supporting our students not only around priority standards, but around the science practices. Science should be hands-on, and what does that look like in our classrooms to deepen their learning? Continue to support teachers in using the high-quality instructional materials with fidelity. We've been working closely with Amplify Science specifically because we need teacher and student level data, and they hadn't been able to provide that for us. I will say, when I finally told them if I didn't get the data, then I would be going to the Department of Elementary and Secondary Education, who supports the use of Amplify Science in our schools, to let them know that we're not able to measure student performance and support their achievement with Amplify Science. Funny, the data is available now. I don't know how that worked, but I can now see it, and so we will start using that with our teachers to support our students. We'll be developing common assessments for our high school science classes and using that data. And also we do have pre-assessment, mid-unit assessments called critical junctures, and end-of-unit assessments in Amplify Science. So we will use that data to progress monitor as students make their way through units. Much like ELA and math, looking at school and departmental professional learning opportunities to support teachers. Last time we were all together, we talked about coaching and how are we supporting our teachers in doing this work, and we are all committed to that at the district and the school level. And then monitoring the fidelity to which we're using our curriculum materials in our classrooms through formal and informal walkthroughs. And now I'll turn it over to Jamie.
Good evening, everyone. I'm here to talk to you about the work that we're doing in our special education department to improve the performance of our students with disabilities. So my slide here is really designed to illustrate that difference between the way all students are performing versus our students with disabilities. So on this chart, the students of all performance is in orange, where compared against the students with disabilities performance in blue. And that is what we refer to as an achievement gap, and we have seen that persist over the last number of years. So as I mentioned, there is a gap that exists between the performance of all students versus students with disabilities, and that's across all academic areas: reading, writing, and science. Reading, ELA, math, and science. We also have seen little difference or no change relative to the achievement levels from 2021 to 2022, as measured by the average percent of students meeting or exceeding expectations. On the MCAS, you did hear from both Dr. Connors and Dr. Spalding some where those differences were. However, overall, we did not see those significant change. And we also know from the data that the placement or where our students are placed makes a difference when it comes to both their student achievement as well as their student growth. So generally, students who are placed in less restrictive settings or closer to general education inclusion generally perform better and grow more than those in, say, substantially separate settings. We will continue to monitor this data trend for 2022, but it is something we're watching closely as we in special ed talk about the least restrictive environment in which to educate kids. So our next steps in special education are really focused on the goal writing of the individual education plans. So each student with a disability has an individualized plan that monitors and tracks their progress. So we're working on creating more measurability in those goals so we can better track and develop ongoing monitoring systems for the performance of our kids with disabilities. We'll also be looking, again, as general education is implementing high-quality instruction materials, our substantially separate classrooms, and students with disabilities will also be participating in those programs. So ensuring that there is access, relative to the support for the core curriculum implementation, as well as professional development for our special educators on specialized approaches to teaching reading, writing, and math. We also are very thoughtful to build a more robust student learning ELA progress monitoring system similar to what we're seeing in regular ed relative to special education progress, and ensuring that as we look at the performance of all students, in our buildings across schools and grade levels, we're also paying particular attention to the performance of our kids with disabilities. In terms of ongoing monitoring, we're looking at where our students are being placed to ensure that we are using the least restrictive environment when we're placing our students. We'll also be looking again at the progress monitoring, student progress on STAR and associated measures, as well as examining practices to continually assess our students with disabilities access to, again, that general education curriculum, including our specialist programs like art and music. Our kids with disabilities need full participation in the full life of the school. And I'll turn it back to Sean. Mr. Precious? Yeah.
Mike, you're going to do some closing remarks here? Or? Okay, great. I just want to thank everyone for their parts of the presentation. Great job, everyone.
Thank you, team, for a great presentation. It's much appreciated. And before we go to questions, I just want to say that, again, as you can see, we have a long way to go to our goal of 90% proficiency in 5 years, but we're starting to see the impact of the structures that the school committee has approved, that we have put in place, that have been lacking for years. And we are now starting to see the small increases in that work. I also want to commend the teachers and the paras and MTAs who work in the classrooms every day during a very difficult time. What they had to go through the last 3 years, and then coming into this year has been a much better start to the school year, even though there's still issues we have to deal with every day. But I've been to every school, I've been to some twice, and teachers are working really hard. So my hat's off to them, the paras, the MTAs, and then again our principals and all administrators that spend a lot of time on teaching and learning. So next, what we have to do is really dig deep into the data. So we're actually looking at questions that our students struggled with and try to target instruction around that. So again, I want to thank Sharon. I want to thank the entire cabinet, and again, our teachers, paras, MTAs, and our administrators at the buildings, principals, associates, our coaches, our coordinators, and obviously our assistant principals, all who are really doing a lot of hard work. But we do have a long way to go. It's some positive signs, but there's still a significant gap for our students, especially students with disabilities, and we need to continue to work harder and do a better job. So, but that's been put in place, and again, everybody's working hard, and I commend them all for the hard work they're doing.
Thank you, Superintendent. Well said. That was a pretty thorough presentation, and we're slowly seeing the changes, so I'm looking forward to seeing how we're going to do next year. And it really hit me. I'm not sure about the rest of the committee, but a third grader, when the pandemic hit, is now a sixth grader. That's a huge difference. And it just, we're sitting here and it's just, we have our work cut out for us, but we're seeing some positive changes. So thank you so much for the presentation. Do any of the members have any questions or comments? Mrs. Sullivan?
I just wanted to say that, the kids were out of school for a long time, and I don't think we can see results right away. When they come back, we have to give the teachers time to work with them and the administration time to do their work. And, it's going to be a hard job, but we can do it. And I just wanted to talk a little bit about the writing, because I know we did a lot of work with writing over the years, because MCAS requires a lot of writing. With the children have to produce a writing sample. And I know we even, for a few years there, Superintendent Thomas, and I'm sure you'll remember, we did writing across the curriculum, where the kids were writing in every subject, even in gym. Yep. So we've dedicated a lot of time to writing over the years, but I think when you have a pandemic that keeps children out of school for as long as our kids were out, it's going to take us some time to get back. But I have complete faith in the people that are doing it and the people that have done it in the past. And I just wanted to ask a question about what's the difference between the all students and the multi-race student group?
All students is every student, the aggregate for every student in the Brockton Public Schools who took the test at that grade level. And then that is a student-specific group, the multi-race. So all the student-specific groups that you saw up there are identified by the state, and you have to have a certain amount of students to qualify for that student-specific group. And obviously, Brockton, we qualify for most of the student-specific groups, and the multi-race is one of those student-specific groups. But the aggregate that you saw, that's all students together.
Okay, so the multi-race just takes into those certain race groups that were mentioned up there.
Right.
And then the all students is everyone.
Correct.
Okay. And then,
Some students fall in more than one category, too.
Some students identify by more than one race.
Right.
okay.
So that's what multi-race means. The
Yep.
student identify as both white and black, and so they would say they are multi-race instead of just picking one or the other. So that's what multi-race means. And so it doesn't mean multiple races identified as a group. It means a child who says they identify as more than one race. So when you see that category, that is identifying those kids who see themselves as more than one race. And then all students is every student did testing. And so that includes the multi-race students with disabilities like EL students. It is every student that tested identified.
You gotta come up to the mic. Yeah. So everybody can hear.
All right, so you did hear that piece of it, right?
Yeah, but I think
Okay.
they wanted them to hear at home.
Okay, they wanted to hear at home. All right, so what I just explained is that a student who identifies as more than one race is how the state identifies them as multi-race. And so that is a subgroup all by itself, a student identified group by itself, children who see themselves as more than one race. And so the all students are the students who are identified every student that we tested. And then when they lift those groups of students out to see just how specific groups did, that's what the team showed you tonight.
Thank you very much.
All set?
Yep.
Did you have something to add?
No, I was just, I think.
Oh, Mr. Homer.
Probably an unpopular question in my household, but I was going to say, throw this out here to anyone. Is there anything that parents can do on our end, from thinking about my middle school students, my elementary student, to either watch for or talk to the kids about, or to try and support their engagement with the programs, with the SD Math, the Lexia, those kind of things? What does that look like for a parent at home? Because I know obviously the teachers are doing a lot of heavy lifting there. What are the parents doing to help support that? What can I do on my end? Thank you.
No, it's a great. I'm happy to take a stab, and then if folks want to chime in. So I would say for all of our curriculums, there are resources attached to all of them that do have resources for families around what to look for. And what to support and supplement at home. I would also say I think couple of strategies that come to mind is just checking in with and looking at the types of assignments that students are working on, seeing that they are aligned to the curriculum that is corresponding to that grade level or that content area. So that is helpful. And then just reinforcing, I think, the importance of reading and making sure that students are spending time actually reading grade level appropriate text at home. Those are just a few things that come to mind, but
Also,
Alex, do you want to?
We can also, what we recommend for parents, and Ivalise Carabello, who works with us closely and runs our community center, is, she has done workshops along with partnered with our IT department for parents that speak English as their second language, to help them log on and be part of the parent portal. Which also helps them see details about their child's progress. So it's important that all parents make sure they get access to the parent portal, and we are going to have more workshops for all parents, but Ivy Lease is focused on parents where English is their second language, and just to help them navigate the parent portal and log on. And then she had 50 parents there the first night, and they all downloaded the app. And so I think it's important for all parents to get on to the Infinite Campus parent portal, and that really helps them monitor the progress of their child.
I was just going to add that students can monitor their own progress as well. So another opportunity for a conversation would be to ask them to show you how are you coming along. I will say the name of the penguin in ST Math is Gigi. So you can ask them how Gigi's doing, and they'll think you're really cool because you know the name of the penguin. So those kinds of things, having conversations, ask them how they're coming along in their levels, and whether it's Lexia Core 5 or ST Math or Lexia English, I think is another way. And of course, for literacy in general, it's just read, and talk about books and read some more.
Very similar. So the 4 core curriculum resources at the middle school level are all accessible through Clever. So you can, parents can ask their children, log into Clever and show me what you're doing in social science and discovery ed. Show me some of the simulations in Amplify Science. What are you reading about in Study Sync? How's your Mathia doing? Do you have any, where's your Mathia tracker? So just really asking, if you just say, log into Clever and show me, there's the window of opportunity, instead of saying, so how was science today? Oh, it's awful. The teacher won't let me use my cell phone and we have to write. Yes, that's not, it's not helpful. Show me Clever, and then they'll look at you like, how do you know about this secret entry point into my middle school work? And I think that will be really helpful, and just continue to be partners with all of us in the schools. Please reach out, please call. Share with us how we can best support your students too, because you know them better than we do. You're with them more. Let us know how we can best support them. So great question. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other members with any questions? Mr. Sullivan?
Just a comment. I know you got a long way to go, but this is a great start, and congratulations to the entire group and everybody who was involved in this. Nice job. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions from the committee? Comments? Okay.
Good. Put my glasses back on here. Next is the items to refer to subcommittee.
Do we have any items to refer to subcommittee? So
Yes, I would have a meeting with the safety, security, transportation. The chief is sending a new lieutenant to the police department, and I'd like to have him come and meet with the safety, security, transportation committee, and that same night stay for the full school committee meeting so we can introduce him to everyone.
Okay. Mr. Rodriguez chairs that. If you can take care of that with Mrs. Campbell.
And we can also introduce the new officers who just came out of the academy that have started with us.
Yeah, I got a chance to meet them at the game over the weekend. So that's perfect. So we could probably, Mr. Rodriguez, we could probably do that the same night as a meeting, have them meet and then introduce them to the rest of the committee. And then I know, Mr. Sullivan, we're working on a facilities subcommittee, yes. I believe, Superintendent.
Yeah, it's for the Shaw School to vote to return that to the city. Mr. Rodriguez was right. We already did that for the Keith. So that is done. That was done sometime last spring. And now we need to give the Shaw School back to the city because it's pretty much, they're going to put a red X on it for non-entry for emergency personnel. So it's no longer needed by us. It's not needed for storage anymore. And then maybe we can work with the city council on the best use of that piece of property, because that is an excellent piece of property. It's with the school building, the parking lot. You see there's old tennis courts on the left, and there's actually a pretty big field in back that has a lot of potential for the community. So I think it's good for us to have a conversation of the best use of that city-owned piece of property.
Okay. So Mr. Sullivan's gonna, you'll work on that with Mrs. Campbell to get that scheduled?
Yeah, she has a date, November 1st?
No.
November 1st so far, but we'll check with all the members.
Well, next week we have the mass conference, just in case anyone's going the night before. If not, we could try to pencil that in. We
Okay.
do have the mass conference. We just check with the members.
Yeah.
Okay.
And Mr. Rodriguez also has something about the fields, to put it on the agenda as well that night. The facilities.
Oh, facilities, perfect. Sure.
Yeah, we can have the architect come who has done the design. They still have a little more work to do with the Conservation Commission, but he has the overall design, and we can bring him to that meeting.
Okay. And I know we were waiting on the application and some lease information from facilities. If we can have that in Friday's packet, if we're able to squeeze in a quick meeting. We just have a handful of meetings pretty much left till the end of the year. So those that are chairing subcommittees, you're going to have new members next year chairing subcommittees. So if there's anything that's like still open and needs to be wrapped up, just so, you know, holidays are going to creep up. You know, we're already talking about November. And, you know, you have the holidays coming up. So if we can just get those scheduled, just because we have a lot of stuff going on our calendars, to get those wrapped up before the end of the year. So that's it as far as items to refer to subcommittee. Perfect. Any unfinished business? None. Any new business?
I have one item I'm going to have Dr. Connors present. I want to commend her, and Jess Hodges and Kelsey for the job they did putting together the Pathways Fair for our 8th grade students. And as school committee has mentioned several times, we have to do a better job of marketing what we have at the Brockton Public Schools. So we had a Pathways Fair, which I was able to go to yesterday. It was great to see the students going in and out of the Center Street location for the Pathways Fair. Michelle will go over exactly what they saw at the fair, but we had the BHS Drum Corps playing for the kids as they came into the building and exited the building. So it was a great sight, and I think a lot of eyes were opened at the things we offer at our high schools. So again, it was just a part that we're going to do something for the parents as well, similar. So I'll have Michelle talk about how it all was put together and the things that were presented for them.
Maybe the very short version, but as the superintendent mentioned, as you all are aware, we often are losing students to other schools outside of Brockton. And so it is our responsibility to find out why and what can we do to help deter that. And this is the time of year when our middle school students are invited to Southeastern Open House, and Southeastern typically comes into our middle schools to present, and they give a great presentation. We're also very focused on instruction in our middle schools, and so I was really working to protect instructional time, and that includes our specialists because our students' art and music and phys ed are also important. So I said, I put a halt on Southeastern coming in, and then had to start to think about, but how do we get our students access to that information, because it's important. And Jess Hodges and Kelsey Lynch had this phenomenal brainstorm about, let's do a high school pathways fair, and we'll have the drum line and all of these things. And they said, it's probably a heavy lift, but next year. And I said, oh, no, we're going to do it this year. And it's going to be messy, and it's short notice, and that's okay. And we're going to figure it out. And so the three of us reached out to Southeastern and told them of our idea. And then we reached out to Dr. Mangus, Dr. Ferreira with CTE, Champion Promise. I'm just trying to think of everything. AP and Todd Erickson, AP and IB coordinator, JROTC, Cindy was so instrumental in helping us get everyone from the high school and all of our pathways together. And we just met and said, okay, here's our brilliant idea. This is what we'd like to do. We'd like you to create a booth. We're going to have it at Center Street, and we're going to have each school, all the 8th graders come in and just tour like a job fair, picture a job fair. And they kind of looked at me. I said, I know it's a lot and we're insane, and that's okay. We're going to try it out. And when I tell you, every adult and we had student ambassadors from all the high schools come because their voice is more important than the adults in sharing their experiences. They rose beyond the occasion. Brockton is truly the city of champions, and the last 2 days at Center Street was evident. Our students in Brockton are so incredibly fortunate to have the opportunities that they have, and it's incumbent upon us to showcase that. So I think when we first came back from our planning meeting, I told Dr. Spalding and Sharon Wolder, I said, I'm excited and I'm going to throw up because I don't know how this is going to go. And we literally, thanks to Dr. Cobbs and his team in operations, our transportation department, picked up kids. We had it all timed out at 4 buses at East, picked up the kids, dropped them at Center Street. As the superintendent said, the drum line was out there greeting them. The kids were dancing as they came in. It was incredible. I'm exhausted. At every hour, about 200 8th graders came through Center Street, and they were incredibly well behaved and saying things like, I didn't know Brockton had more than just Brockton High and Southeastern. I didn't know nursing was available at Brockton High. I talked to 2 young ladies at Plouffe last week when I was there, 8th graders. I said, where are you thinking about high school? And they said, oh, Southeastern. And I said, tell me why. It's a great school. Well, graphic design and automotive and nursing. And I said, let me tell you a story about Brockton High nursing. And then I shared the story of my daughter, who is starting as an RN at Brigham next Monday because of Brockton High nursing. So they were like, oh, I didn't know that. So just really exposing them. We learned a lot these 2 days, and Kelsey's been keeping a running list. I'm like, oh, and this next year, and this next year. So we have a lot of work to do, but it was incredibly positive. I'm looking forward to reaching out to the middle schools to get their feedback. What did they hear from their students that we could do differently? And also all of the participants today from Brockton High and Southeastern, but it was great. So Kelsey and Jess deserve all the credit, as do all of the presenters at the booths and the students.
Thank you. Actually, I'm really excited to hear that it was such a success. I mean, that's the one thing, is Brockton has so much to offer. And I'm always hearing, oh, we didn't know that.
Mm-hmm.
Well, we're going out to the schools. We're making it fun, and students are able to relate more when it's one of their peers that's addressing them. So I was trying to get there, and I couldn't sneak away from work, but I'll be at the next one. But thank you so much, and this is exciting. And I say even start, in 6th grade, 5th grade, before they get to the middle school and we lose them to other schools, show them what we have to offer, because we do have a lot. And especially with our new, the associates program, a lot of the students. So there's a lot of stuff that we have at Brockton. So thank you so much. Thank you to everyone that worked on that. It's always a team effort. So it's always exciting. Let us know when the next one is. We will definitely plan on that. Any members have any questions? Mrs. Sullivan?
So we did, I think it's important that Southeastern does a presentation. We should do the same presentation to see what vocational programs, so the kids can see what vocational programs we have before Southeastern comes in to show what they have, because nobody knows about our vocational programs. So they're all leaving to go to Southeastern when they could be staying here. We have to present to the middle schools before we lose them what vocation, because a lot of them are looking for vocational.
There was a lot of that. Oh, I didn't know Brockton High had these. And we also, I guess, even the most critical piece, every student completed a handout with their name and ID number and their school and circled their interests, and we're going to be doing targeted outreach to those students as well. We see you're interested in these areas. Did you know that Brockton High or Champion or Promise has these opportunities for you? So, and we're doing a raffle and everything. So this will be, we're reaching out to all the parents as well. We will be very targeted and direct in our communications and really vocalizing what we offer.
I think it's great. Thank you.
Thank you.
Have we worked on something as far as like a video that we can have that if the parents or the students can't go in person, it's something that can be shared. It's something that can be played, provided at the schools, school levels, things like that.
We were working very closely with BCA. They were going to be there, and then unfortunately at the last minute weren't able to, which we understand. I suggested Jess put on a GoPro. She wasn't too keen on that. Can't imagine why. But yes, that's one of those for next year. Again, we did this at such short notice. BCA did everything they could to help us, and we need to give them more lead time. But we are going to, as the superintendent said, do something very similar for our parents. Our CTE open house is next Tuesday for Brockton High. So families, as Mr. Homer asked, your middle school students were at the fair these last 2 days, our 8th graders, so they should attend the open house next week as well.
So yeah, we're planning with Jess now a hybrid presentation for parents, which would take place at 661 Center at night, and it would be a combination. People can come in person, and those who can't make it can watch it through Zoom. So we're putting that together now.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Any other members with any questions, comments?
And I got a text this afternoon from our old friend and former school committee member, Brett Gormley, who teaches at West, and he sent a text saying how great it was for the kids, and he went with the 8th graders, and he said it was a great event and well planned, and the kids loved it.
Definitely. I believe if they can see it and they can feel it, and it sounds like that's what they did. They saw it, they felt it, rather than looking at a brochure or a postcard or something. They were part of it, and they were able to listen to their peers. Which is
those were the most amazing conversations, watching the high school students interact with the 8th graders and the 8th graders asking questions, and they all walked away with some swag too. We had some string bags and some pens and lots of brochures. There was cupcakes made by our culinary arts department, so it was very exciting. They left with a handful of things, just great.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. Any
Mr. Homer has a question.
Oh, sorry, I apologize, Mr. Homer.
Just to add on, just for new business, I was just going to thank everyone for helping out with the Future Boxers Day the other day, and that was a great event too. And there were so many middle school students that were able to participate at the halftime show, and they did a great job. And I think they enjoyed their time. It was a great day. It was a good game, really good game. So thank you to everybody who invited the middle school kids and helped them with that. And I think that's another way to make those connections between the high school kids, talking and working with the younger kids and inspiring them to be connected. That's great. So thank you.
Thank you. So we do have a couple of items. I just want to give some reminders. So we have a couple of things that are coming up. Our next school committee meeting is on Tuesday, November 15th, unless we're able to squeeze in a meeting. Is that just a subcommittee meeting on the first, Mrs. Campbell, if we're able to do that, or are we going to try to do a school committee meeting? 2 subcommittees. Okay. So our next full school committee meeting will be Tuesday, November 15th, 7 p.m. Arnone School Theater at 135 Belmont Street. So, and let's see what else we have here. We have the Brockton High School Veterans Day Assembly. That is Thursday, November 10th. At BHS at 9:30 in the morning. That's always an amazing assembly, and I try to attend. It's if you haven't attended, make it a point to come by, and if you've served, come by, because they honor those that have served, that are in the audience as well. Schools are closed Friday, November 11th, which is Veterans Day. And then let's see what else we have here. And then next week, a few of us are attending the Mass Joint Conference in Hyannis. So that's it as far as our calendar. I do want to just make a quick announcement. So Cradles to Crayons, my favorite organization, they did something that they haven't done. This is the first time they've upped their co-order that they're giving to Brockton Public Schools from 500 to 1,500. So we are reaching out to our adjustment counselors. They're reaching out to us, getting me some of the students that need the coats. But if there's anyone that's listening and you have the need, feel free to reach out to me. My information is on the website. It's joyceasac@bpsma.org. Reach out to me and I can coordinate with you. We're as far as the sizes that they're giving us, I think the largest is a child size 18 for girls and boys. But again, this organization has really done a lot for Brockton. So 1,500 winter coats will be coming to Brockton. If we have some left over, we will be reaching out to the public. But if you have the need, I will find a way to get you a coat, as long as we have the sizes. So please do reach out to us. Any other members have any other announcements? Or I think that's it as far as new business. So we will be going into executive session. We will not be coming back from executive session. So the executive session is pursuant to Mass General Laws, Chapter 38, Section 21A3, to discuss strategy and obtain advice of counsel with respect to potential litigation against Jewel Labs, Inc., and others as part of the multi-district litigation pending in the U.S. District Court for the Northern District of California, known as In re Jewel Labs, Inc., Marketing, Sales Practices, and Products Liability Litigation. Case number 3:19-MD-2913-WHO, or other similar or related litigation pertaining to such matters. We will not be returning. If I can get a motion to go into executive session before we motion to adjourn.
Motion to go into executive session.
Can I get a second?
Second.
So a motion's been made by Mrs. Sullivan. It's been properly seconded by Mr. Homer. We are going into executive session. I need to do a roll call. Mrs. Sullivan?
Yes.
Mr. Homer?
Yes.
Mr. Rodriguez?
Yes.
Mr. Sullivan?
Yes.
And the chair is a yes. Thank you. Meeting adjourned. All in favor? Unanimous. Have a good evening, everyone.